Wouldn't it be great to make some $1,000 plus eBay sales? I have done it myself and you can too. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 types of items that you could sell for $1,000 or more on eBay. And if you think that you always have to pay tons of money for these things, that's not always the case. So let me take you through some examples. I'm going to start with one that I showed people last year. It's one of my sales. You could see there's a video on it called My First $1,000 Plus eBay Sale and How You Can Make One Too. And this one has to deal with a comic book. It's a Giant Size X-Men #1. Now this is the issue I sold, but not the specific listing. This is one that sold for much more money because it was in much better condition. It was in near mint condition. The book comes from 1975. It is significant because it is the first time that it joins the new X-Men with the old X-Men together in this big issue. And so, it's not that long ago. I mean, 1975 isn't like ancient times, so it's not unreasonable that you could still find comic books like this out there. I actually found this comic book through an ad that I placed on Craigslist. I did a recent video on how to set up these Craigslist ads if you're interested. A person responded to me who worked for a junk clearance company, and he would pick up things here and there that he thought was valuable and throw it in a big shed. And then it was time for me to come by to his shed slash storage trailer area and help him clear it out because he needed some space. He didn't know much about comic books, and so he just knew they were old, and if I wanted them, he brought them by for me. And so I just picked them up. I paid less than $1 for this book because it was in a big box of a lot of other comic books that, again, he just didn't really know anything about and just decided to just sell them off to me for cheap, along with a bunch of other things that he had. And that's really a tip on how you're going to find a lot of these things. You are not going to get this book to flip it for $1,000 or $4,000 from somebody who's a high-end collector. You're going to have to find these types of things through buying them in lots from people who themselves are going out and doing estate clearances, junk clearances, that type of thing. Or a lot of times you could get these at estate sales if the estate sale dealers are just trying to liquidate, or the family is just trying to liquidate, or maybe, like I said, you set up a situation, a private type of pick situation with a family member of somebody who is recently deceased, and they just want to get rid of the items. And if you're willing to take it all for a big bulk price, that's how you could get a lot of valuable things. Storage units, I've done a couple of videos on my channel with storage units, so you could go check those live interviews out, and that's another way you could find a lot of treasures like this. There's other examples, but this is how you could get this type of stuff for cheap. There's certainly some element of luck that's going to be involved in getting things like this, but you also need to know what to look out for. You need to have some basic knowledge and awareness of these types of things. The one I sold for that I covered in this video sold for $1,250 because it was not as good of condition. It was in fine condition, but this one was in near mint to near mint plus condition, which is why it sold for so much. But even if you don't find this exact specific issue, I talk a lot on my channel about comic books. I have a whole playlist section on comics. There are tons and tons of comic books out there that sell for $1,000 or more, tens of thousands of dollars or more. So if you are not looking into comic books at all, you definitely need to do so. In my What's Sold videos every month, I cover comic books in some shape or form. So it's definitely an area to learn about for sure. So that's the only comic book I'm going to show you, though. I want to basically cover lots of different areas that you could potentially find some things in. The next one I want to cover with you is Star Wars toys, and the one that is really the one you really want to go after and try and find is the Boba Fett figure from 1980, 1979-ish, right around that time frame there. This figure, this character really is the most pretty much sought after character. He's really the most popular character among Star Wars aficionados. I mean, yeah, there's Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and all this stuff, but Boba Fett really has a cult following. I mean, think about it. That's why when Disney Plus just decided to make a new series, they called it The Mandalorian because they knew the popularity that Boba Fett had among its fans. They didn't make one about Darth Vader when he was little. Granted, they put him in the movies when he was little, but it's really a testament to the popularity of this Boba Fett figure. Now you want to try to find it in the box and unpunched. So you see that little punch tab right there? If it is not punched through, that is going to add some significant value to it. But you obviously here you want it to be in the package, and you want the package to be in great shape. But the thing you're also looking for is that this is called a 21 back. And this is the key right here. It's called a 21 back because right on the back you can see there's 21 figures that they are listing here that you want to collect for this particular line of series that came out for the movie, for Empire Strikes Back. So that is what you are looking for if you ever see this. Now, again, you may very well never come across this exact figure in the package, but believe it or not, like let's say for example you find just the backing board, like right here, just the Boba Fett backing board. You could sell that, just the board, for hundreds of dollars. I mean, I have right now, if you go to my eBay store, I have the original 12 backing boards from the 12 figures, anywhere from priced between $150 to down to like $35. Just depends. Sometimes what happened with these backing boards is that they asked people to cut out the UPCs to mail away for something, and so you had to do like a proof of purchase. So sometimes you'll see little holes cut out of the bottom of them, or little squares cut out, and that's going to take the value down of them as well. But just to say, even if you found, like I said, the backing boards or just the figure, you find the figure and the weapon in and of itself right there. Sometimes the weapons could go for crazy money, sometimes over $100 for the weapon. So yes, ideally, you'd be able to find this figure, in the blister pack and everything, all sealed, unpunched. But, my point in showing you this is, even if you don't find that holy grail, even if you find things related to that, you can make some significant money. It won't always be $1,000, but sometimes it'll be hundreds of dollars. So again, just to give you some tips of things to look out for. And there's all sorts of variations of figures. Like I mentioned that I have these 12 1977 Star Wars figures up. So I have Luke Skywalker up, for example, and he has yellow hair as the main figure, but there's also a brown hair variant that is worth much more money. So again, there's all sorts of things to look into and to research, but you got to develop that knowledge base so when you see these things, you don't pass them up. So we went from comic books to action figures, which are two things that I love, but we'll also go to music. And I'm just going to show you one type as an example, but there's lots of records and record sets out there that are worth over $1,000. You need to know the area. You need to know what to look for. I picked this one on purpose because it's a very popular group, obviously Led Zeppelin, but this is something that didn't come out all too long ago. This set actually came out in 2004. You could see it's it has this box shape right here, so you could easily carry it, and it has the entirety of Led Zeppelin in there, and it's they're 45s actually. So a lot of people like the 45s because they have a certain type of sound quality that you're going to get out of those that you're not going to get with the 33s, for example. So there are a lot of people who love to listen to those 45s. Now, only 500 of this set was made, and that is why this one could go for crazy money. Like you could see this one here went for $7,654. There was another one that also sold for around $4,000, and these are two of them within the last 60 days. Now, this, of all the things I'm going to show you, this may be one of the harder ones to find, but these things are out there because they weren't weren't made that long ago. And I know it sounds like, now I don't know, maybe to you 500 sounds like a lot, 500 might sound like a little, but I have plenty of things in my collection, comic books and toys and other collectibles that were made only in a run of 500. I have things that were only made in a run of 25, of 10. So, these things are obtainable. They are out there. But the Led Zeppelin road case is a big one to look out for. It's out of print. They don't make it anymore. Discontinued items, that's a big key. Looking for anything discontinued. Don, the auction professor, recently did a video on items, everyday types of items to look for that are worth $100 or more. One of the things he talked about a lot in that video is discontinued items such as food items. So in general, anything discontinued is going to make it much more difficult to find. It's going to give it a rarity to it. And if you couple that rarity with something desirable, well, now you have a great situation, because you have high demand coupled with low supply. That's the recipe right there, the perfect recipe for driving up price. But I'm trying to show you things here in this video that are not just one-offs. These are things that consistently sell for that price whenever they come up, and that there's been several of them that have come up recently. Let me show you another one here, because this is one I think that a lot of people would pass up on if they saw it in an old shed or something, or an old garage. This Western Electric 555 receiver. And it really reminded me, since it was found in this crate box right here. It was actually found in a Western Electric crate box. Now, how many people watching my channel, you could say in the comment section, remember when I went into the estate sale that I called Freddy's Dungeon? So if you want to see that video, check it out. And I recently did a follow-up to that as well, when I was talking about how you could find all sorts of secret treasures, is looking inside of boxes. And remember, I opened up that box with the Motorola radio inside of it, and then I sold it for $100. Well, that's how you find this type of stuff. These vintage electronic pieces, they really are worth a lot of money. This is part of the first ever mass-produced PA system, so it's really highly coveted by hi-fi collectors. They love this type of stuff, and they like to use it for for various different types of sound projects that they have going on, because this is just exquisite quality right here. This dates back all the way to the 1920s, this type of item. And if you think like this is something that's impossible to find, that's not impossible. There were two of them recently in the last 60 days that sold on eBay for well over $4,000. And again, even if you don't find this exact item, if you come across something like this, it's an old looking electronic piece, a metal piece like this, it has like a cool old label on it. Look that type of stuff up. Anything that has like a patent on it, like that, a patent application number, look for those things. These are things, even if they don't look like they're, this most like amazing collectible, trust me, there are people out there that love this stuff. They eat this type of stuff up. So that's my fourth item there. I really love this fifth item, because I know people who watch this channel who have actually found this type of item. In fact, if he's watching, I've interviewed him before on my channel. Brandon from Retro Junk 1987, great YouTube channel. He actually found this before. This is the Eternia playset. It is the best by far Masters of the Universe toy to get. Many people think that Castle Grayskull is the best, but it's not. This is actually the best to find as a reseller. If you find it in the box, even if the box is all damaged and beat up like this, there's so few of them out there that in a box like that people will pay up big time for it. $4,000, well over $4,000 for one that looks like this. But even if you don't find one in the box, and a lot of times when you find them, they won't be in the box. I actually just narrowly missed out on one of these a couple of years ago, laying out at a garage sale. I just missed it, but you'll often find it like this, so you need to know what to look for. And the key thing to look for is, and let me scroll up a little bit, it's this blue tower back here. That's what you want to look for, and it's got this little head on the bottom. Now, oftentimes there's so many little pieces inside of this that it's rare to find it complete outside of the box. But even if you find it mostly complete like this, this will easily sell for over $1,000. Easy, no questions asked, no problem. I mean, this is how coveted this item is. And in fact, even if you just found little pieces and parts of this, you could sell them for hundreds of dollars, like the head or the elevator shaft or the arms and the base. I've actually showed this in some of my videos before when talking about how to part out different types of toys, and this is one of the ones I've mentioned before to look for. Also, as a clue on Masters of the Universe types of toys, you could see that turret back there. That structure there in the green to the far left, it has a number 1 on it. Looks like it has a number 1. It's like a little slot there. That is something that looks very similar to the Castle Grayskull. So when you see that type of look, you know you're likely dealing with a Masters of the Universe type of item there. So that could be a little clue there. But you have to be able to know to be out there and recognize, wait a minute, that looks like that could be part of that Eternia set that I saw on the Primetime Treasure Hunter YouTube channel. You know, pick that up. Or that big snake. You know, there's a snake like that on Snake Mountain, which is another valuable type of item to find. I've sold those for hundreds of dollars many times, the Snake Mountain. So definitely look for, like I said, the Eternia playset. They are out there. There was one out in my area. Like I said, Brandon found one from Retro Junk, and I know other people who have found this as well. Definitely a hot item. The next one, this is one of my favorites to go over because a lot of people know when they think of video games, they think of vintage games, they tend to always think of Atari, Nintendo, Sega. Maybe some people will even think of PlayStation. Some might think of Coleco and television, but very rarely does Neo Geo come up. And Neo Geo has a very fond place in my heart because Neo Geo, when I was a kid, was the video game system I always wanted to have but can never afford. I never ever was actually able to obtain it. I remember trying to save my allowance up for it because I was just so blown away. The graphics for it at the time were better than anything Nintendo had to offer. And there's 2 different types of Neo Geo sets out there, but they, no matter which one you find, they will generally sell for well over $1,000. Like this one, the Neo Geo CD version, sold for $2,000, and there's a cartridge-based one as well. I loved it for the game Baseball Stars, and I remember playing it in the arcades. If you remember back in those days when arcades were cool, Baseball Stars was one of my favorites. And they had a version of Baseball Stars on Nintendo, which was cool, but it wasn't anything graphics-wise like it was on Neo Geo. So I definitely wanted to get one of these. I remember back in the day it was $600 back then. So now they're harder to find, but they are out there. If you go and you do a search on the comps, you'll see there's a lot of Neo Geo sets that do get found and they do get sold. These are types of things you might find in storage units or, buried in a closet at an estate sale. And if you saw it, if you don't know much about video games, would you think to necessarily pick that up? Or would you say, nah, that's not Nintendo. I never heard of that before. I wouldn't get it. Listen, even some of the games like this one here, Path of the Warrior, this one game sold for $1,700. Like, that's how crazy it is for Neo Geo games. So if you never heard of it before, it's made by SNK. It's definitely something to be on the lookout for whenever you come across any types of video games. Now, in terms of clothing, I wanted to throw something in there for the clothing folks out there. And I actually decided to put this in just a stream that goes down to show you this is not a one-off. And I limited these to pre-owned. Okay, pre-owned shoes. These are Christian Louboutin shoes. And the way you could always tell a Christian Louboutin shoe is that on the bottom of it, and you could see this here, this is what you want to look for. It's actually really unique to the shoe. Anyone who has tried to copy this has gotten sued by Christian Louboutin, and Christian Louboutin has won, which is the red bottom. Okay, right there you see that. That's what they are famous for. They have these really just amazing style shoes. And I do know people, like recently I featured Amanda, who had some Christian Louboutin shoes on from the Garment Broker Poshmark channel, and she has done posts where she has talked about finding these on her Instagram account in thrift stores. Believe it or not, there are people that do donate these even to thrift stores, but you could find these at high-end estate sales. These are all, again, pre-owned, and I'm just going to give you a sense of pre-owned ones. Just scrolling down, we're starting at $1,900 for a pair of Christian Louboutin shoes, all different types of designs, all reliably selling for well over $1,000. Now, many of them that sell more tend to have this studded look to it, but not all of them do. There's all different types of styles, and you know, you just need to know what to look for. You need to know to look for those red bottoms. When I first started out doing this, I would not have known to look for those red bottoms. I would have easily passed them by. I suspect many people watching this would as well. Granted, there's going to be some luck involved with finding this, but again, you got to have the knowledge to be able to, you know, to find these types of things. Again, storage units could be a place where you can get things like this. If you know, you come across one where there's you know, someone who had just high-end clothing items just put away for a while. That, you know, that's where you know, people have found stuff like that, really high-end shoes. I know Wade has found really high-end shoes before, sneakers, that type of stuff, from the Wade's Ventures channel. So this stuff, again, it is out there. There's plenty of examples right there. So we got 3 more to do. I want to go over Bakelite right here. This is a really cool type of material. It has a nice sheen to it, as you could tell, a nice gloss to it also. It's quite brittle though, and it didn't really hold up too well over time. They made a lot of radios based on it, and the ones that have held up, there's many of them that will sell for hundreds of dollars, and even some that will sell for over $1,000. Like you can see this one here sold for $1,500, and there's other examples of ones that look like that. They have these really nice kind of really often have these bright colors to them, yellows, bright blues. They tend to have this kind of blocky look to it, but they made lots of things out of Bakelite. So they made telephones, for example, even out of Bakelite, which also can sell for over $1,000 if you find them. If you find them in working condition, that's obviously an added plus, but you want to be on the lookout for this type of material. There's some research you could do online to be able to tell whether or not, in different ways to examine the product to tell whether it's real Bakelite versus something that might be an imitation. Like there's a rub test, for example, you know, where you rub it to get a certain type of smell. So make sure you check that out, and you could get some good information there on scoping out you know, real Bakelite types of items. But they are out there. You're going to tend to find something like this at an estate sale, and there's lots of other things made out of Bakelite as well, not necessarily ones that'll sell over $1,000, but there's jewelry, rings, pendants, all sorts of stuff made out of this material, and it's highly sought after. Lots of it will sell for hundreds of dollars, but some of it, like you see here, will sell for well over $1,000. Next thing I want to point out here are accordions. I point this out for a couple of reasons, and it's not just accordions. It really has to do with vintage instruments. I feel like a lot of people pass these types of things up, and I see instruments a lot at estate sales, including accordions. Now, really, it's going to vary in terms of the value of the accordion, in terms of whether, you know, it's damaged, and the brand name is really key. So you can see this one here is a Hohner. There's lots of different types of Hohner brands. Another one is Roland. That's another top series that you want to look for. But many of these, if you go and you just check the comps on this, they will many of them will sell for $1,000 and well over $1,000, some for several thousands of dollars. It's hard to find you know, accordions in general, like the average person. Like I said, I'll come across them here and then at estate sales, but for people who are out there, you know, looking for more high-end ones, it's challenging for them to find them. A lot of people don't sell them. In fact, just the other day, I was watching Craigslist Hunter's channel, and someone had called his store asking for accordions, and he was talking about how, you know, whenever he finds them, he grabs them and puts them up because they sell really well, and you know, they're tricky to you know, to come across, but people have a desire for them. They're really popular in Italian culture. I remember when my maternal grandmother got remarried, that at a family ceremony there for the wedding, they had people coming out playing the accordion. So, it's real popular culturally, and a lot of people just love that noise. And, it's a cool type of item to find. So if you find one, again, a Hohner or, some kind of vintage Italian brand, and these are used ones, by the way. I'm talking about used ones. If you find new ones, that's even better. But these used ones, they work good as long as they don't have significant damage on them. These are things you could sell for over $1,000. Look also for silver-plated instruments, horns, trumpets, that sort of thing. They don't even have to necessarily be silver-plated. And if they're silver-plated, yeah, that's obviously going to increase value. But vintage instruments in general, they could sell really well depending on what they are. Guitars, all sorts of stuff. So that leads me to my last item here to go over with you. And this is one of my favorite types of things to sell. I've shown it in many of my haul videos. Not this exact item, but something along these lines. I have a lot of it up in my store right now that I'm selling, and that has to do with Dungeons and Dragons items. And I'm going to scroll down for you, but Dungeons and Dragons as a series here, this started in the mid to early 1970s with this box set right here, and this is the first box set. Let me make it a little bigger so you could see the picture of it. It is very rare to find this first box set, and I don't expect that you're going to be able to find the first edition one. Okay, this one sold for $20,000 on auction for the first edition of this. You see that name Gygax? I've talked about his name before. That's for Gary Gygax. He wrote a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons books, the campaign modules, all sorts of books related to Dungeons and Dragons, and anything with his name on it has some value. So definitely be on the lookout for anything like that. Now, while you might not find the first edition, the second edition is more reasonable that you could come across that. I actually know someone who did come across it in a storage unit. A thrift trader came across it once, and he sold it for a really high value. I don't remember the exact price, but it definitely went for well over $1,000 on auction. You could see here's one that sold for 10 grand. And there's another one here that sold for $7 grand as well. So, and that was in 1975. I think the first edition was in 1974. But even if you find some, some rare booklets and pamphlets, some of these could sell for thousands of dollars as well. So it's not just necessarily finding the complete set. Just, rare old 70s stuff from Dungeons and Dragons could sell really well. Now, I tend to find stuff that's in the 80s, but sometimes I do, and I've shown you examples of it before, that I've come across 1970s Dungeons and Dragons items at estate sales and have sold them for $100 or more. So definitely be on the lookout for that for sure. If you ever come across this, please don't pass it up. You could really hit it big time with this. So I hope that this gave you some inspiration, especially as in just a few months it's going to start warming up a bit, and you're going to be going out there and you're going to be doing some hunting yourself. And so again, you may never come across any of these $1,000 items, but again, the whole point of this is really just to kind of cue you into it and cue you into some things to look for, that even if you don't find the $7,000 item or the $1,000 item, maybe you find the $500 item that you wouldn't have necessarily thought to look for if it wasn't for this video. And that's one of the things that I am most happy about with this video and my Facebook group, or these types of videos, and my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, is that I am getting a lot of people writing me, telling me that they are finding things and getting things and selling things that they would not have known about or would not have even thought to pick up before if it wasn't for some of the things that we're sharing here and on this channel. So I love doing that. Love sharing the knowledge with people and helping to improve the reselling community and the types of things that they're looking for, so they could bring that stuff out to market. There's plenty of it out there for us all. And, we're all limited in terms of where our geographical locations are. So there's some treasure hidden out there somewhere in New Mexico that I'm never going to find. So why not tell you about it if you live in New Mexico so that you could find it and, make $7,000 off it, hopefully. So if you ever find one of those holy grail items or one of those amazing items or something from here, or even if you did sell it before, drop a link down below in the comment section. Let me know what your favorite item was as well that I showed. I always love hearing those types of things. Maybe tell me the item that you were the most surprised by, or something like that, or that you never would have thought of. As I mentioned, there's my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. I go over a be on the lookout item every day. Today, for example, we talked about Mr. T collectibles and how valuable some of those are. So, if you wouldn't be very surprised how much money a box of new and unopened Mr. T cereal goes for. So come on over to the Facebook group and check that out if you're not in there. The link is down below in the description section. Make sure that you smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. Make sure that you also subscribe. That's very important as we try to continue to grow the channel. That's only going to happen with people subscribing if they like the content. That tells YouTube that this video is something that you enjoy, and then they want to recommend it to other people. So hit the bell icon right up top here. That's going to let you know when I go live. I do have a live show coming up this Wednesday night where we're going to talk about reselling and taxes, what you need to know. It's kind of an intro 101 video. So I hope that you come by for that, especially if you're new. You're going to really enjoy that because we're going to have Jenny Silvera on, who's not only a reseller, but she's also an accountant. So make sure you come by to that. Again, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. Hit that bell icon and you will be notified when I go live. And I also multi-stream into the Facebook group if you're there. So that'll definitely increase the chance that you don't miss it. Come by, follow me on Instagram as well. That's at prime_time_treasure. And I'll see you back at the next video, everyone. Take care.